I have the very distinct privilege of introducing someone that needs no introduction, but I'll give a brief one anyhow. She was my dad's partner in crime. She was an inspiration through her own struggles with cancer and then helping my dad through his. She continues to astonish me on almost a daily basis, and I would like to introduce to you Olivia Chow.
What a joy to see all of you here. And we all know that Jack would have loved this. Loved the last days of summers, hanging out in the park, having a picnic with friends, enjoying each other's company and listening to some good music. And we know that in the last 5 years, lots have changed, Lots have changed. I have 2 more granddaughters, Solace and Phoebe, in addition to Beatrice. I think they're there somewhere. We no longer have Stephen Harper as our Prime Minister. I have returned to a profession Jack once loved, teaching at Ryerson University, a place where he spent many years as a professor. Now, some things have not changed. On the environmental front, 2016 is the hottest year ever measured. Each of the past 14 months has beaten the global monthly temperature record. So the climate crisis is here. And we still have massive number of people desperately looking for affordable housing. The homelessness situation is as serious as ever. And the gap between the rich and poor is even more devastating and continues to grow. Yet we do find hope. We must find hope. In the months following Jack's death, I found life really difficult. Half of my face was paralyzed, caused by shingles. I didn't know shingles could do that. I couldn't shut my left eye. I couldn't smile, eat, or drink from the left side of my mouth. I couldn't even speak properly or clearly. And one of my lungs was scarred from pneumonia. One night in December 2011, I couldn't breathe and landed in the emergency ward in the hospital in Ottawa. And yet I found hope among all those difficulties. Where? I found hope in recalling Jack's generosity in spirit and action. And let me give you one story that illustrates that. Many years ago, Jack and I met a homeless young woman, and she was coughing and coughing and coughing. And this is in winter, in December. She was sleeping outside, and obviously she was really quite sick. She and her friends was living by a silo right in the mouth of Don River called the Rooster Squad. And we tried hard to persuade her to go see a doctor, come inside, get out from the cold, get treatment. But she wouldn't. She insisted on staying outside and living with her friends. And we've heard, and Jack heard stories of all the physical, verbal, and sexual abuses these young people have endured. And for the first time, they felt a sense of community, a sense of love, and a sense of family. And that's why they're living in the rough, out in the cold in December. And it was bitterly cold, and Christmas was only 2 days away. So Jack said, wait a second, we need to do something. He called up his old friend in Quebec, in Hudson because he remembered his friend Philip Habib owned a tent company. Pam, you're right. He's always thinking about opportunity. And he said, hey, Philip, I need some tents right away. Philip said, this is day before Christmas. What do you mean right away? I want these tents down to Toronto from Quebec so that I can put some tents over the heads of these young people. Philip said, are you serious? Yep. Let me tell you the stories about these young people. And he did. Philip was moved. He brought some friends together, hauled some tents together. They're huge, they're big. They put it on a bus, and it arrived on Christmas Eve. And I don't know where he managed to find the food and the money, and we end up having a little Christmas celebration with these young people on holidays. It's a very small gesture. It wasn't much, but it's a message to these young people that someone cared and that one should never, ever lose hope. And the ability to listen, to see the good in each person, to be empathetic, to connect and believe life can be better if we support each other. These were Jack's values you all shared. A fundamental belief that we can all be generous, that our government and all the people in our country can be more generous towards each other. These were Jack's beliefs you all shared. And these are the values of social democracy that Jack believed in so strongly. Now, Philip was moved by the stories of these young people and Jack's commitment to them, and Philip found the courage to make a difference. Through the 5 years, I've heard so many stories of people who were touched by Jack. They pulled me aside, and they probably pull Mike aside and Sarah aside, and those of you that know Jack, they pull you aside and said, let me tell you your stories, my stories. Like women who spoke of Jack, listening to their stories of fleeing violence in their lives. And men telling me how important it was for them that Jack founded the Wet Ribbon Campaign to end violence against women. Gay men who were grateful because Jack supported their human rights. He was out there supporting them and protesting against the bathhouse raids by police. And that was a long time ago. And implement the first AIDS defense plan in Canada. The biggest in Canada. I've heard so many moving stories from Tamils who saw Jack fearlessly stand with them in front of Parliament when no other political leaders would. Indigenous people like Sean Atleo actually, whose home and reserve Jack visited, where he listened to the stories of young men and women losing hope, wanting to kill themselves. And then he told the Prime Minister that he must apologize for the residential schools. In fact, Jack was relentless. He told Stephen Harper that many times. And Quebec New Democrats like Nick, who said he found a home in the NDP because Jack demonstrated that the essence of Quebecois social democratic values are the values that New Democrats shared. Lesbian couples like Lauren and Elizabeth, who finally got married after being together for 30 years, loving each other because it is finally legal to do so. That was something Jack worked for decades and never gave up hope. And from so many others, because Jack heard our stories and he gathered all of us together to make change happen. He didn't do it himself. He did it together with all of us. And Jack was eternally hopeful that things would be better. And it is this hopeful and generous spirit that moved a new generation of young activists to help me organize this memorial. People like Nadine, who pulled our team together. Yeah, who made this night possible. We're here together. And my family and I are very, very grateful and thankful that all of you are here. And now this is the first year in the 3 decades of me not, first time that I'm not in politics or working or campaigning or working full time. So I finally had some time to take a little vacation. And I was on an Arctic river called the Firth River, the oldest river in this country, and it flows out to the Beaufort Sea. There's something about being in the north and contemplating about the world and universe around you that makes you totally, perfectly alone. The barren land, the majestic canyons, the mighty river, the isolation, all reminded me of how we are born alone and shall return to dust when we depart. There is no dress rehearsal. This is our life. In the grand scheme of things, we are very small and insignificant, but collectively, our spirit is strong. Many have experienced the loss of a loved one. Many of you here. As we visit Necropolis, remember them. As you visit Jack, remember Jack. But there are many others. A friend of mine, Helen Brashauer, wrote me a few days ago about her late husband, Dr. Bob Frankfurt. She said his ashes are sprinkled in the rose garden in the Necropolis. Bob Frankfurt was a former MPP in the NDP government who later attended to the homeless at a shelter called Seton House. We, especially Helen, remembers Bob's commitment to social justice and caring for the most vulnerable. So, yeah, some of you remember Bob Frankfurt, yes. So let's all remember our departed loved ones for the best in them. Remember their smiles, the joy, and the love you experienced together. And remember a generous thing your loved ones have done for you and for others. And sometimes when we remember these unique and best qualities of the person we have lost and the beautiful moments we shared, sometimes the sadness and sorrow can be overwhelming. But let it transform you and let it become you, and let that spirit of generosity be part of who you are. And I know that is in you. And when we do that, we become stronger, because together we are stronger. We understand and appreciate that we are not alone. And as we celebrate the generosity of spirit from those who have departed by joining our scarves together, if you haven't gotten one, collect one. We're going to tie them together, symbolizing that we are stronger together. And as we pass Jack's grave sites, let us dedicate ourselves to each other and to make a world a better place for everyone. Let us make that dedication. And as we remember the best qualities of those who have passed away, we are hopeful. As we work for change and make a commitment to listen and empower those who are most vulnerable, we are loving. And as we place a stone at Jack's grave as a commitment to being generous and staying true to our values, we are optimistic. Thank you for being here tonight. Join me. Join me and Mike and Sarah and other family members as we walk over to Necropolis, not far, just across the street. pick up a little scarf if you want to, connect it with each other if you want to. There'll be stones there, and remember who you've missed, and remember the commitment you've made to us and to each other and to yourself about making the world a better place to be. Thank you.